Hey everyone, Tammy here from Organize Yourself Skinny, and in this video today, I want to chat about something simple yet super helpful: freezing spinach, kale, and other greens ahead of time. If you are looking in your refrigerator and you're seeing a big package of greens or a big bag of greens that you've recently purchased and maybe it only has 1 or 2 days left in its lifespan, then I'm going to show you how you can save those greens by freezing them. Now, believe it or not, but how to freeze kale is one of the most popular blog posts on my blog, and I wrote that 9 years ago. So it's obviously a question that many people have about freezer cooking. So in this post, I'm going to answer just some common questions and then share with you the 3 different ways that I personally like to freeze kale, spinach, and other greens. All right, well, I just want to first give you a quick background on how I stumbled into even discovering how to freeze kale and spinach and other greens, of course. Well, about 9 years ago is when I stumbled on green smoothies, and green smoothies for me were a total game changer. And honestly, I could do entire videos just on green smoothies, and I probably will. But when I started to drink green smoothies, I started to buy, obviously, more spinach and kale. And I would purchase these big bulk bags so I would have greens to put in my smoothies for the entire week. Well, it didn't take long before I realized that I was wasting a lot of greens because I wasn't able to use it all before the end of the week or the end of the next week. So I had a lot of spinach and kale that would just spoil and then get slimy and gross, and then I would just have to throw it out. So when I look back on that time, I actually, feel almost embarrassed by the amount of greens that I have wasted over the years. So anyway, that's when I started to freeze kale and spinach ahead of time. And honestly, it's been super helpful. First, it just assures that I'm gonna always have greens available in my freezer for a smoothie. It's gonna assure that I'm going to have longevity with the greens that I purchase, so I can make them stretch longer because I don't feel that urgency to use them all up in 1 week. I could just freeze them and use them however I want in recipes down the road. And third, it saves money. So I can buy a big package of greens ahead of time, freeze it for whatever recipes I'm going to use it in. And like I said, I'm able to buy in bulk and get something like organic baby spinach for a lot cheaper than if I was just to purchase smaller packages of it. A common question that people will ask me about freezing greens ahead of time is, should you wash them first? And here's the thing. I purchase all of my baby spinach, kale, and greens in one of these containers and bags that are triple washed. So I don't feel the need to wash any of the greens before I freeze them because they're organic, they're already triple washed, and they're ready to use. However, if you're purchasing kale or spinach from the store that's not washed, then yeah, you will have to wash that. Or if you're planning on freezing, let's just say spinach or kale that you've grown in your garden, then yes, you're gonna have to wash that. So, you just wash it in the sink, strain it, put it in a salad spinner, and then just like lay it out on a towel. And you wanna make sure that it's really dry prior to freezing because you don't want it to get freezer burn or ice crystals or anything like that. But if you purchase it from the store already pre-washed, then you won't have to wash your greens ahead of time before you freeze them. Okay, so let's go over the 3 different ways that I freeze greens ahead of time. The first way that I freeze them is by putting them into a freezer smoothie kit. Before I jump into showing you how to do that, I just want to first give you a little tip, I guess a money-saving tip for buying greens and frozen fruits. If you have a local wholesale club near you, like BJ's Wholesale, Costco, Sam's Club, I highly recommend going there if you're looking to purchase smoothie ingredients in bulk because I can get organic greens, fruit, chia seeds, and other superfoods at a really great price. So I just wanted to give you that little tip. Now, I drink smoothies about 4 to 5 times a week, so it's super important that I have ingredients ready and available. So I make about 10 to 15 of these kits at a time, and like I said, I purchase all the ingredients in bulk from my local wholesale store. Okay, so let me show you real quick how to put these smoothie kits together. I use quart-sized freezer bags, and I'll put about a handful of greens in the bottom of the bag. You can also use glass jars or reusable freezer bags. And then from there, I put in my frozen fruit. So here I have strawberries, but you can use any frozen fruit. And then I put in bananas or any other fruit that I want to use. And then I like to use chia seeds in my smoothie kit, so I'll add some chia seeds into there. So you want to make sure that the greens are on the bottom, so when you put them into the blender, they end up on top. So the frozen fruit will be the first things to go into the blender, which are usually the hardest to blend up. And then you just take these and put them into your freezer for when you're ready to use them. The second way that I freeze kale, spinach, or greens is by simply putting the leftovers into a freezer bag. So, of course, you want to label your freezer bag so you know exactly what greens you're putting in there. And again, if you want to use glass containers, you can do that. You can also use reusable freezer bags. But all I do when I have leftovers is I just shove them into a plastic freezer bag, squeeze the air out, and put it in the freezer. And this is, when you freeze greens this way, you could pretty much use it in any way that you would use frozen spinach, kale, or greens. You can grab a handful for smoothies, stir some into soup, pasta, use it for omelets, sauces, casseroles, or things like that. So pretty much however you would use frozen spinach and kale is how you can use it when you freeze it yourself. The third way that I use greens is by freezing as part of a recipe. So for example, I'll make this kale, bacon, quinoa, egg dish, and then I will freeze that in portions to eat later on. Or I'll also freeze kale in my Zuppa Toscana soup recipe, put those in glass jars, and freeze that for later on. You can freeze spinach or kale in any recipe that calls for spinach or kale. So you can stir it into sauce, you could stir it into soups and casseroles, and then just freeze that for a future dinner. The fourth option, which isn't really one I do anymore, is to blend kale or spinach into a puree and then freeze it using ice cube trays or a muffin pan. And you basically just put the greens into a blender, add some water, and puree it until it gets to be the consistency that you want. And then once they're frozen, you just pop them out and place them into a freezer bag. So these are nice to use in recipes where you want to hide the greens, or if you just want to ensure that your greens will be completely pureed in your smoothie. But it does take some extra effort, so I prefer to use the other ways that I mentioned. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you found the information that I shared today helpful. If you want more of these videos, then just hit subscribe below to be notified whenever I post a video. So thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.